Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, there's a lot going on in this day and age for people to have feelings about, but it's important you actually know what you're having feelings about first before you go there. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean that you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, please keep listening. And subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. You can see a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, the Blue Sky, the Threads, the Tumblr, the X, the Instagram. I lose track. There's too many. We're in the seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please come by, pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? We love to watch it and write about it and talk about it. We love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness. Come on by and pay us a visit. On this episode, we've got a real important one. It's one that kind of our journey on this film started back at TIFF 2024. And there was protests around it, and there was controversy. They canceled screenings, rescheduled screenings. It's called Russians at War, which is a powerful doc about a young reporter who gets herself embedded with Russian troops to see what's going on. And again, it's a serious film because she did this without authorization. She just basically went to Ukraine with a Russian army battalion, and she gets rare access, and she sees the realities of that in war nobody wins, and so many of these people and these young men in the Russian army who are going to war have been brainwashed and just aren't just don't know why they're there, and they're miserable and they want to go home but they can't because they're being threatened and just all sorts of bad things that are going on. But normally a film like this would either go to TV like TVO or we get a theatrical run or that kind of thing, but the film is being released tomorrow, August 12th, globally at www.russiansatwar.com. You can go see it directly there. And I recommend you check out the website because there's extra footage and you get a real sense of what Anastasia and her team really tried to do with this film. Like, rented direct from the artists, the filmmakers, support them directly because it's so important. But we had the chance to sit down with Anastasia Trofimova. If I pronounced that wrong, Anastasia, I apologize. She's the director. And one of the producers, Cornelia Principe. And we talked about the film and just getting it out there and getting it seen and the controversy therein. And there was a lot to talk about. And this is a movie that's going to spark conversations. It's one of those ones that should spark conversation. And if you want to check out what the controversy is all about, go to russiansatwar.com, rent the movie directly from them, fund the artist directly, get it out there, get into the universe, and have conversations. Because, again, you can agree or disagree, but at the end of the day, it's important that we see, that we watch and we learn and we listen to as much as we can if we're going to have conversations about real world stuff, particularly about the war in Ukraine as well. And I think Anastasia, as a journalist and a filmmaker, really does a great job here. So enjoy our talk with Anastasia and our producer Cornelia, because between you and me, I think it's a pretty darn good one. Anastasia, Cornelia, just thank you so much for the time, and thank you for the time to talk about this, because obviously I've been following this since since last year. This has been a bit of a ride on multiple levels for all of you.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
Anastasia, I guess my first question is for you. Walk me through, I guess, the initial impetus to want to make the movie. I guess sort of from the first meeting with Santa Claus on the train kind of thing.
Well, the initial impetus to make the movie, I guess it was a sense of responsibility.
Mm,
Because when the war began, I was completely convinced that it would not happen. So it was a huge shock to me. And I felt a sense of responsibility as a documentary filmmaker and as a Russian, because this was my war in a way. And I could not allow myself to just, immigrate to another country and pretend it had nothing to do with me. I filmed other people's wars in the past, and now the war came to my doorstep. So um, I kind of had to do it. The first 8 months, we were actually making a completely different film. It was about anti-war protesters, and Russians at War was the name for anti-war protesters.
right.
And that was until I met Santa, and everything changed. So I followed him to the front, and we made a completely different Russians at War, actually, literal Russians at War. And yeah, so that's pretty much the short, very, very
The
short.
short version, yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, this might be a simplistic question, but it's something I'm always very curious about because obviously, when you're making a film of this nature, you are quite literally putting yourself in danger. And I mean, how do you navigate, I guess, the logistics of not only getting embedded with these soldiers, but just sort of day-to-day survival? I mean, if that's the right way to word it.
Mhm. Well, this is not my first war.
Yes, yeah,
So I think it's sort of when you choose this profession, you kind of weigh the risks and you know how far you're willing to go. Now, I've always been willing to go as far as the characters let me, and especially with this war, because I think I had this sense of not just urgency, but some sort of, yeah, responsibility in a way. So I wanted to go as deep as I could. And once you're living with your characters and these soldiers, you just share in everything because, in a way, and that's what I've been doing in all my films. Like, I try to live with the people, and in a way that also shows them that you're not above them, that you're willing to share in their troubles, tribulations, in their cold, in their rations, and they see you as an equal, and they open up to you more. And so, wherever they went, I went. It was cold. I did have the flu like 4 times in a row, and because once you live in close quarters and one person gets sick, everybody has it,
of
and
course, yeah.
yeah. But at the same time, I knew that I was getting a story that no one else was. And it was my responsibility, and there's no way that I should leave because it was uncomfortable or something like this. I should stick it out as much as I can. And so I stayed there until the commander, who sort of turned a blind eye to my presence, he was killed. And the new commander basically threatened me if he ever sees me again, he would hand me over to the FSB. And so at that point, well, after a few weeks, I still stuck around and hid in the forest for a bit to still get the last shots. But at some point, I realized that I should leave, and so I left. But yeah, if that
When
didn't
do
happen, I
you,
would probably stay there much longer. So
well, I can imagine, yeah. When do you, I mean, and this is for both of you, but I mean, I'm kind of curious, when do you know sort of how the picture is coming together in terms of theme? Because there was so many things that really struck me. And I mean, I think the thing that I pulled away from, at least from my perspective, was, at least from a Western standpoint, we have this idea of in a war, there's winners and losers, there's good guys and bad guys. This was very much a film that was telling me a story that in war nobody wins, and that is the cold hard reality. And I mean, for both of you, when did you start seeing, I guess maybe that story?
Well, I'll put my 2 cents in because I'm somewhat a little bit removed.
Right.
But the whole process of her filming, I was watching footage because she was uploading it to the cloud. I was able to watch it. But initially, we were making an anti-war film with anti-war protesters.
Right.
And I think we were both surprised when she got to the front. Obviously, we were like, okay, you got to go. But I was anxious the whole time that she was there. We were surprised that we were realizing we were making an anti-war film with soldiers. You're open to what you see. And I think for me, watching the footage was a revelation. And in fact, in the edit room, we were going to have both stories, the protesters and the soldiers. And it wasn't till we were in like 6 months into the edit, we realized we can't have two stories. It's just the soldiers' stories. That was so much stronger, it was like so powerful that we just sort of parked all the protester stuff. So when do you know? Well, you kind of it sort of grows on you, and then you realize, my God, this is something powerful. That's an anti-war film with soldiers. And that's, to me, we stayed true to the initial idea of the film, but in a much more powerful way, in fact, with the soldiers. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it does, because I mean, there's nothing more poignant than seeing a soldier who doesn't quite understand why they're there.
Yeah.
And that was thematic through so many of the people that you talk to. And I mean, it was heartbreaking. It's like, I don't know why I'm here, but Nazis are bad. And I'm like, wait a minute, where are the Nazis? And it's just one of those things where you're like, wow, okay, this is sad on a whole completely different level as well. And it's just one of those things where, and I mean, I've got to dovetail now just a little bit into sort of the aftermath and your premieres and all that. It's one of those things where I can understand people being emotional about anything having to do with the war and anything like that, and just sort of, I can see that getting emotions high. But I'm kind of curious on both of your reactions when initial feedback was starting to come back from people who hadn't actually seen the film. And to me, that was shocking in and of itself, because it's like, and I mean, it's kind of why Anastasia, that's why you're there in the first place. It's why you're there making this film in the first place. But you come back home and you're getting the same reaction.
Yeah. I think we were all shocked. I mean, we knew it was going to be a sensitive film for Ukrainians to see. We knew that because it's an ongoing war. So it was going to be tough. But we didn't think it would be that hostile. And it also, we expected people to watch it first and say, okay, I just can't watch it, or, so there was a lot of surprises. One of the other surprises, and Anastasia and I were talking about this recently, is that a lot of Ukrainians reacted to the one Ukrainian in the film, Ilya. They almost didn't care about the Russians. They had a hate on for Ilya. And for them, it was a sore spot. He was a traitor to their people, or what they perceived as their people. Obviously, Ukrainians are not monolithic. They have different opinions, but that was a real sore spot. So there's certain things that we didn't expect that came out in terms of, but the biggest one was, we refused to see it. It's Russian propaganda, even though 99% of the people who were protesting it only saw the trailer. So it was just based on the trailer. And so there was a lot of, I think we were surprised at the heat that it came. And also, political, at Chris Freeland.
Yeah.
That was a shock. We did not expect anything like that. So there was a lot of things at play, I think, that were happening, on so many different levels, that we were in the middle of this storm and a little bit shocked, to put it mildly. Anastasia, I'm sure you could speak to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that, of course, there was this huge outrage from Ukraine, the state, the government of Ukraine, which just demanded the cancellation of this film in any country that we went to screen it at. So everywhere that we had screenings, in every single country, there was a protest. There was a note of protest sent by the embassy of Ukraine in that country, which then mobilized local Ukrainian communities in that country to physically go and protest, or to write letters, or to do other things. And it was all pretty well centralized and pretty well organized. And of course, online, it's been quite aggressive and quite nasty. And again, most of the people have not seen the film. So it was like an attack against me. It was an attack against the film, almost making it as a symbol of something that they wanted to attack, without actually having without actually seeing what it's all about. And again, like every single time we had screenings, and I got a chance to talk to the audiences, which for me, it's always the most important thing. It was a sense of this was not what we expected, because I think the debate and the rhetoric around it just framed it to be something that it's not. Just framed it to be another piece of work that forces you to choose a side. So it's either you're pro Putin or you're pro Zelensky. You're not even talking about the people. And for me, this is what I hate, and that's why I always wanted to make a point that this film is not about political personalities. This is human stories. And for me, the human story was lacking in this war. This war does not have enough human stories, especially coming out of Russia, because for it's difficult sometimes to work, yes, and there's just not. And so it was great to see how people's opinions changed, despite whatever their political persuasion was. Into seeing this reality, because I think no one expected it. So the Russian reality is so hidden from the rest of the world, I think, that once they see it, it just completely breaks sort of the stereotypes about this war that people had. And I think this is the power of documentary, that we speak a language of human stories and we avoid these political slogans that are so infiltrated into media coverage sometimes today.
To me, it's about this war, but to me, it's also just about war in general. And I think that's when you take it on a human level, that's how I see it anyway. Obviously, if people are looking at it, whether you're Ukrainian or Russian, you're seeing it through a certain lens. But really, it's about the horrors of war and how soldiers are the ones that end up dying in the war, not the people at the top. I mean, one of the screenings I went, the first question I got after screening in Windsor was, now that I've seen the film, I don't understand why people are protesting. And, and that's a big question. The simple answer is because they haven't seen it, but there is actually a more complicated question about that. So what is it about documentary that inspires people to think that this is going to, somehow have an effect on, or somehow undermine certain situations or challenge their idea of what a Russian is. I mean, it's, to me, and that silver lining is showing a certain power in documentary, which is great. I just hope it doesn't lead to, filmmakers, because of what we went through, filmmakers who are going to be self-censoring or not doing challenging films, because we really need them right now. I mean, there's awful stuff happening in the world. And we need filmmakers to be able to find the courage, like Anastasia, to confront a story and tell human stories in that. So I hope this is, I mean, for Anastasia and I, we want to turn this into a sort of a teaching moment or something, or like in a way to say, yes, and we got through it, and we're gonna get to show the film to the world, which is what we're really excited about now. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're on the brink of that, obviously, with the launch for the website. And I mean, I'm going to ask him about that, but I got one question first. I'm curious, how do you both feel the film has maybe sort of evolved, especially in this past year? Because obviously, in the mainstream news, we have seen more stories about what is happening to Russian soldiers who refuse to fight, and sort of how the war is crumbling on so many different levels. It really feels like, from when you shot it to sort of the initial festival tours, even now, the film is evolving and showing more and more of a layered perspective on what's going on over there.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think when you have to shoot a story that is so complex, and you yourself don't quite understand where the complexity is coming from, but you intuitively feel that you have to include certain elements. Like, for example, the elements that we included about the Soviet nostalgia and how strong it is in that area of Eastern Ukraine, and why it's also in a way a driving factor behind certain motivations to side with Russia, for Ilya, for some of the local people. Those things will become discussed more and more once you have space for discussion. So not so much about attacks, not so much run by emotions. And emotions, they're always there. In a war, they're always going to be there. But if we are to look for solutions, we have to sort of put them aside and look for solutions. And I think this film, which is what I'm happy about, and I think once that Cornelia and I had the final screening in Paris, and we sort of turned to each other and like, we made a good film. We know that this will withstand the test of time.
Yeah.
But you have to be loyal to the story. You have to be honest, and just know that whatever's gonna happen, you're doing this because you believe in it, right? And because this is the story that you saw. And so I hope that, in a way, once the discussion starts to change, we will be able to rely on testimonies that were recorded while the war was going on, not after the or and that's sort of one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to do this now, because after the war, memory changes, there are new political realities, people sort of alter their testimonies to fit with the new political realities. You have to film it right there and then analyze it. Right.
As you know, as a documentary filmmaker, I think I always think I want to get back to the documenting. I mean, she documented a war.
Yes.
That is incredibly powerful for future historians, future she actually documented a war, and I think that's sometimes I think documentary film, we're making a film or telling a story. Well, we're actually documenting something that actually happened, that it was important to the world, important, and when you bring it down to the individual level, I think it will resonate 10 years from now, 20 years from now, on a human level as well as on a historical level. And I think that's, for me, that's the pinnacle of what you can do in a documentary, is be universal and personal on the same level, and also capture history.
Well, and that's why I want to talk about sort of the launch of the website and just sort of the way you're releasing it, because I've got to imagine, given the controversy after TIFF, it kind of blew up sort of the traditional release window of what a documentary like this would see, and it forced you to pivot. Talk to me just about sort of, I guess, this idea of, because I like what you said about the document, because really I think the way you're doing this, you're preserving the document, because it would be so easy to sort of release this traditionally and then it would kind of go away and people would forget about it. But this way it feels like you're doing the absolute most to sort of preserve what this document actually is.
Yeah. And I think we're also trying to do that with the website. So I don't know if you've been on the website, but there's going to be a lot of more content on the website, which is actually going to document the controversy, the good, bad, and ugly, everything.
Right.
And so I think it's important, as a part of the legacy of the film is also what happened with the release, right? The whole controversy, the whole films being pulled, this or that. So that's part of the story as well. So that was really important for us, that the website be content rich and show all the perspectives. In other words, quotes from people who, Christopher Freeland's quoted in there, and all that sort of stuff. To sort of, so people can again take it as a sort of almost like a learning tool. And now we're obviously self-distributing, which is not something that I'm a film producer. I don't want to distribute, but we didn't have a choice, so we're doing it. And it took us a long time to figure out. I mean, we've been working with Sean Furnell, who is incredible. And so our little team, bit by bit, we started to figure out, okay, how can we do this? How do we get the film out there? And so we took the same route as No Other Land and Union. We're going to be on the Gather platform. It'll be available around the world, the feature version, except for 3 locations that we're going to be releasing at a later date for free, which is in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. So we're going to get back in those 3 territories so that we can release it for free on another platform. And we still have to technically figure that out, because Russia has some issues around platforms that you can't access. So, and it was really about getting it out there so people could see it, and judge for themselves, and also give the context of everything that happened.
Which again is so important. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
Anastasia, yes, no, 100%. Anastasia, though, but I'm curious. Obviously, like you said before, this isn't the first war that you've documented, but this is the first time you've been involved in a war after the war that you've documented. I'm kind of curious, how has this entire experience changed you, not just as a journalist, but also as like an artist and a filmmaker as well?
Well, to be honest, I think I talk to colleagues who still work in Russia,
Mm,
and there's a bit of a crisis about how to tell stories and how to tell complex stories. Also, you see fellow documentary filmmakers around the world, and some of the trouble that they've been having, especially last year. I mean, we sort of, I think, got first place when it came to, the drama of it all.
yeah,
But yeah, it really made me wonder how we can make complex films anymore, because it is so easy. It turned out to be so easy if you have an interest group for you to make a lot of problems for you as a filmmaker, because it's an online campaign, it's threats, it's we've just been observing how easy it is to get your film canceled, the screenings canceled.
yeah,
It's and it kind of made me wonder what recourse we have as filmmakers, because in a way, for myself, like, it's not even things that I've said that were problematic, it's the things that I've been accused of saying or doing without any kind of proof. Like, I've been making propaganda. Have you seen the film? No. What is the conversation then? But it still didn't quite stop. So there's a certain interesting logic to these attacks, and it really made me wonder how we can make complex films anymore, because again, they're very important now. And for me, that's so far an open-ended question. I think that's something that we in the documentary community have to address very fast, because you look at No Other Land and the problems they've been having with the
yeah,
distribution in the US, even though they won an Oscar, which is the highest sort of,
exactly,
you
yeah,
know, award that you can get. We've been looking at Union, which is an incredible film, but they still have not been able also to get distribution. We're looking at our case. We're looking at a bunch of cases. So it's like, how do you make complex films anymore? And it's not even, yeah, we've been talking about budgets, and money is always a problem, and broadcast slots are a problem, but now we have a new problem. And a lot of these power dynamics at play, and a lot of online technology, and bots, and all these things that we don't really take into consideration. So that's something for us to talk about and to discuss as a community.
for sure.
Open-ended.
Yeah,
Don't have an answer yet.
it's so wild, but I mean, honestly, both of you, just thank you for the work in telling complex stories, because obviously on so many levels this is one, and just it allows guys like me to sort of try to lead complex conversations. And in this day and age, we need to have more complex conversations to sort of keep ourselves alive and going, because that's how we evolve and learn. But I mean, Anastasia, Cornelia, just thank you both for the time, and just congrats on the launch for the site, and just getting this out there to the world, because at the end of the day, that's what's important.
Yeah, thanks so much, David.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.